The mayor has gathered with him all of his major cabinet members. The head of the Emergency Management Task Force is with him. His deputy mayors are with him, and all others, including the health commissioner, are with him, trying to formulate a policy to try to get through this crisis. The governor is also with him, and what you need to know here is that they are trying to have a concerted effort, a concerted response where the state tries to help New York City get through this crisis. The most immediate thing for New York City right now is to replace the number of fire and policemen who were rushed to the scene. They've been working there since 9 o'clock this morning, some of whom have unfortunately passed away because they were on the scene when the building collapsed. And so right now they're bringing in reinforcements from the state. Governor Pataki is bringing in over about 2,000 people from the National Guard and the state police, and they are going to spell the New York City emergency workers in trying to find, getting people out of the buildings, trying to find if there are people that are still alive, and trying to find out if there are also any dead bodies. Still, there is no count as to how many people have been injured, but when Mayor Giuliani was asked about this, he said the number is more than any of you, any of us can bear. It was a very grim mayor, a very grim governor, and very grim members of the mayor's inner circle who surrounded the mayor as he was trying to talk about dealing with this crisis. We should also know, though, that the mayor himself was actually caught in the building collapse. After the first plane hit World Trade Center 1, Mayor Giuliani's first instinct was to rush to the scene. He rushed to park in Church Street. Then another plane hit, and then after that, the building collapsed in and of itself. Giuliani at that point was near Barclay Street, 75 Barclay Street, and the mayor had to find an emergency route out. In fact, it took the mayor about 10 minutes to find a way safely out of the building. One of the things that's going on now is the question about how New York City and also federal law enforcement authorities are going to be able to respond to this, because in the same building with the city's emergency preparedness office in World Trade Center number 7 was the Secret Service office. We don't know at this point how many Secret Service officers and emergency personnel were in that building. What we do know that the building caught fire. It's in danger of collapse. It may already have collapsed by the time we're talking about it. That is a concern. Also, the mayor is calling on New Yorkers to pray for people, and also he and Governor Pataki both want to send a message to the people who did this. They call them barbaric terrorists. They want to send a message that New Yorkers are strong, New Yorkers will get through this, and most importantly, the United States, with the governor behind it, with the mayor behind it, are going to seek retribution. They're not saying when, they're not saying how, but they say that there will be vengeance, and the people responsible will be forced to pay. Reporting live someplace in Manhattan, I'm Marcia Kramer.
Marcia, we wanted to know, have the mayor or the governor announced when we'll be hearing from them again?
We expect another press conference sometime within the next hour. Obviously, both Liu Young and myself will be there, and we'll come out and report to you just as soon as possible. But right now, I think that the important message that Mayor Giuliani wants people to do is to keep calm. They've told me repeatedly they don't think that there are going to be any more terrorist attacks here, but of course you never know. And they want people to stay calm, be calm, pray for the people who may have lost their lives, pray for the injured, and if they can, to donate blood to help out the cause.
Marcia, of course, we know that all of this boils down to information, getting information out to what's going on right now and what may happen. Have you been given any type of a schedule as far as the rest of the evening and even into tomorrow as to what we can expect? I know you talked about a possible news conference. Is there anything else that's pending?
Well, what they're trying to do now is to develop a way. First of all, they want to develop a list of names, the people who might have been in the World Trade Center, the people who might have been on those planes, and people who might have been in surrounding buildings that were affected when the World Trade Centers collapsed on each other. And so what they're going to do, they're calling on businesses and corporations to help develop a phone link system so that people who are worried that their loved ones may possibly have been injured or hurt can call a hotline to get some information. You know, to get names of people who may have been taken to hospitals, the walking wounded, people who may have been injured. But right now, that's their task, setting up some kind of a phone link system that will take care of the thousands, maybe tens of thousands of calls that they're going to be getting. So it's going to take some time, and that's why they haven't announced it yet, because they expect such a volume of people who are looking for police officers and firemen who responded to the crisis, to people who worked in the World Trade Center area, to people who might have just by happenstance been traveling there either as tourists or whatever. So they're trying to set up some mechanism so that the loved ones can call in and find out if their loved ones are okay, are in a hospital, which hospital, and how to contact them.
Because there are so many.
We expect that at the next press availability, the city will be making those lines available, and I can assure you we'll bring you those numbers just as soon as we get them.
Very good. So many people involved here. Marcia, you're on standby. We'll come back to you in a while.
We had spoken earlier about the President Bush, who has been all over the country today, Florida, Louisiana, the Strategic Air Command headquarters in Nebraska for a National Security Council meeting teleconference. The Associated Press, we just got word, is also now saying, though, that President Bush is returning to the White House. We'll keep you posted on the president's whereabouts on this critical day.
And, of course, earlier the president did talk about prayer and thinking about the people who are trying to help others right now. We have had numerous reports of leaders calling for us to stop, think for a moment, and to pray. No better place than St. Patrick's Cathedral. Pablo Guzman is standing by live right there. Pablo, why don't you tell us what's going on at that point?
There are people here who are preparing for a 5:30 service, we're told, that will be presided over by Cardinal Egan himself here at St. Patrick's. There is extra police presence, as you can see. There is always some kind of police presence at St. Patrick's because of the kind of days that we live through, and you know about some of the irrational attacks that have taken place here in the past. This is obviously quite different, and for those people who don't know quite what this is all about, Charlie, step out with me. We're at 5th Avenue and 51st Street. All you got to do is look down 5th Avenue and see a sight that you normally do not see. Those billowing clouds of smoke from lower Manhattan really tell the story far more than I ever could. We were at the New York Blood Center just before we came here. We'll have some pictures and sound to share with you. They were overwhelmed. Now, you know, these are folks that normally say, hey, we need blood. We always have a blood shortage. That did not happen today. As soon as New Yorkers heard about what happened, they came out in the hundreds. They actually had to tell people to take tickets and come back tomorrow, unless you're type O, that they do need. We'll have pictures and sound from that for you a bit later on. Back to you.
Great turnout. Thank you, Pablo.
All right, the timetable, if you're just getting home, 4:38 this afternoon, and some people who may have started early to get out of town, it has been a long trek out of town, and here is how this day started here, the attack on America. Sometime just before 9 a.m., the South Tower hit by an American Airlines jet. 18 minutes later, the North Tower hit by an American Airlines jet. Air traffic in the entire country closed, shut down. First time in history the FAA has made that decision. We heard from President Bush, who said, we'll hunt down who's ever responsible for this. Then again, 10 o'clock, and these are happening very quickly, these events, another plane, United Airlines jet, crashes near the Pentagon. Again, people injured, people evacuated. Back here in New York at the same time, the South Tower of the World Trade Center crumbling to the ground. People are running uptown, running for their lives, debris flying all over the place. You can't see. People so frightened. The North Tower collapsing moments after that, and then another plane crash, a United Airlines jet, Somerset County, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, and it's believed that one, is that the one, Ernie, that might have been intended to have gone to Camp David?
Yes, that's a possibility. We don't really
confirm
know that right now, but that's a possibility.
All hijacked.
Yes. There were so many people, of course, involved in this today, people who were just, you know, quietly, innocently going to work, going about their business, and we've had a number of accounts on the air from those who have come into the studio or on the telephone. Larry Kofsky, sort of one of our own, if you will, CBSMarketWatch.com, was down on Wall Street in that area doing his job. Larry, you're joining us on the air right now, and you have an own personal story to tell us about where you were and what you saw.
Well, Ernie, I was at the New York Stock Exchange, where I normally spend my time covering Wall Street, and we heard the initial reports that there was something going on at the World Trade Center, and I was asked to go down and take a look and see what I could see. And I was standing at Broadway and Liberty Street and looking up with a number of basically other curiosity seekers when the second plane hit, which we actually didn't see. It hit from behind, from where we were standing. But there was just an eruption of debris and smoke and fire from the building, and people turned tail and were running as fast as they could. I got knocked down a couple times.
Were you covered by?
Well, the back of my shirt got hit pretty good.
See it right
I was knocked down twice, and made my way around to Park Row right by City Hall, where I was watching and talking to some other people, and as we were talking, we saw number 2 World Trade. I guess it was the first one that came down, and it just imploded and fell down. And at that point, the smoke and the debris was just it was almost a scene from a movie.
Yes,
and people,
it's been described like that almost all day.
And people were, as you just said, running for their lives. And at that point, we made our way uptown, and here we are.
How did you make your way uptown?
On foot, all the way.
All the way.
Can you talk about we've heard about the dust and we've heard about the rubble. Tell me about what the ground felt like. Did you think it just, I mean, was it the huge vibration with that explosion? Was it loud also? What was the sound?
It was loud, but that second plane, it didn't shake the ground as you would think an airliner hitting an office building like this would have done. It was, the ground didn't shake. In fact, my first reaction was that it must have been a gas explosion in the building that was already burning, because I could not have conceived that an airplane...
This is what you saw, Larry?
That's
you were there, you saw that.
I was down there.
You'll never forget this.
I will never forget it. It's still in my hair.